Hey YouTube, good Tuesday afternoon. So I just got back into town and FSDBeta 10.69.1 has just finished installing. Here's the software update screen for those of you that want to see the numbers and the hashes. I'm going to just go through the release notes real quick, only because I know there are a couple different ones in here and it's not necessarily anything big, but no, I take that back. There is one thing we've been anxiously awaiting in here, and well, I got some screenshots of it. Let me show it to you here. But basically, they've reset the strikes back to 0. In the notes, it says we've reset your strikes back to 0, but mine were already at 0. I think that's going to be great news for a lot of folks. So here, it just finally came up. So we've reset the forced autopilot disengagements counter on your vehicle to 0. For maximum safety, please be careful is what it's saying, full accountability. The .1 release notes all look the same. I have not gone over this word by word. I just have to continue to say what a crazy world we live in where I'm reading my name inside of the release notes on a Tesla. I'm very humbled by that and glad to be a participant. There are some other ones down here, but these are bleed overs from the .20 branch. The speed assist is here, and the seatbelt system is here. So those two things are expected in the .20 branch that we've joined here. So I'm just going to do a quick Memorial Park drive here. I'm not going to do unprotected lefts right now, only because of the time of day. And I think it might be good just to get our feet wet on .1 with a just kind of a standard drive here. So I've got Memorial Park in here, and it is about 6 o'clock, so evening rush hour should be going south, but the roads will probably be a little bit busy. Let's see what we get here in our first turn. Creep network is still there. Nice pause there. There's a nice gap in the right lane if it wants to go. Little bit slower of a commit there. I think I remember more of a commit on the previous version, so they might have smoothed out that that jerk acceleration there a little bit. Let's see if we notice that anymore on this drive. So since my last video, I've had to replace my HDMI mod once. I think I've got all my cameras working, but I was having a little bit of glitching on my last video, but hopefully it is all working now, and I'm going to try to keep my eyes on all the cameras. So this is a really kind of an interesting rollout period that we experienced here. Elon kind of put the tweet out that said .1 was going to roll out. Okay, we just got a phantom brake there. I don't know what it happened, but it happened just as that little blue car went by us. So Elon said it was going to go out Monday night. We woke up Tuesday morning and didn't have any software, at least in publicly available. But then we saw on Tesla Scope and a few of the other tracking sites that there was a couple employees that had the build. And here we are on Tuesday afternoon. It looks like the same folks that had the 69.0 build also got the .1 build. As of the time I'm driving right now, I haven't seen anyone that didn't have it before that has it yet. So this is definitely a slower release. And I know probably very disappointing to a lot of folks that were hoping for 10,000 by now. All right, as we approach this green light, I don't know if you noticed there, it decelerated pretty significantly all the way down into the 30 mile an hour range. I don't know if I'd call that phantom braking. Quite aggressive braking there, waiting on those cars to kind of come in and out. Not bad though, safe here. Looks like we've got a Model 3 coming out here. All right, this is where I disengage and go to the right just to kind of set the route on its typical path. As soon as this light goes red, I will disengage and take it that way. And just like I wouldn't expect anything to change on a .1 release, I don't see any visualization changes here. I truly expect this just to be tweaking of some of the tolerance, buffers that they have that end up having slightly different weights, perhaps on the different software build, so that it just drives a little bit smoother. Got a pretty good render of a crane right next to us, and it's showing it as a semi. It's a pretty good sized truck though. I wonder if I'm going to be able to tell the seatbelt tensioning functionality. All right, I'm going to let it do the acceleration. I'm turning on the blinker and disconnecting here and turning to the right manually. And we'll re-engage as soon as it reroutes. All right, there we go. Nice smooth deceleration for that car turning. I can see his blinker in the visualization. And a smooth acceleration there. That was fine. I wouldn't have called it aggressive, but it was definitely smooth. And I know that they have been working on that little acceleration jerk, is I think what they're calling it, to make it more natural. All right, we've got a green light, so it should be an unprotected left turn at a light. It turned yellow while we're in the intersection, but it proceeded. Definitely took the turn wider than it needed to. But it's a wide intersection. It was definitely all drivable space. Pedestrian came out here. Ah, look at that. It waited for her. So she did not really show intent that she was coming across, but the Tesla, it wanted to give her the right of way, and it stopped all the way down for her. And the acceleration after she crossed was pretty adequate. I think that was pretty good. I would have probably proceeded because she wasn't close enough to the road. She wasn't making any eye contact or anything like that either. Okay, I've talked about this on the last video, and it actually made the highlight reel. Pedestrian jumped into the crosswalk there, and it completely stopped after we crossed. So that was not appropriate. So I just disengaged while I was talking about that. Interesting. I'm going to enter these U-turns here. Okay, it was not going to yield there, so I had to disengage at that point. I'll try to re-engage while we're here and see if it proceeds. So the length of time that it waited to stop for that pedestrian that entered the sidewalk was completely too late. I'm gonna have to look at that in post and see what we think happened there. Okay, here we have another unmapped traffic circle, single lane. It's gonna go all the way around. It should be yielding to that car. Oh, it's thinking about this a lot more than it did last week. It did it. I don't know if you saw that steering wheel bouncing back and forth. It jumped across. Light's different. Traffic density is a little bit different, but it was a little bit jerkier on that one. And it tried to run the yield on the first one without giving way to that car. Yeah. I'm still thinking about that pedestrian jumping into the crosswalk and the car stopping after it cleared the crosswalk with the collision warning is what I believe it was. Okay, we'll move on and talk about that later. All right, this is the kind of straightforward part of the drive. We got a couple flashing lights. We got a little bit of extra drivable space here due to where cars can park, and it's hugging the center lane just like it has been the last few versions. I wouldn't say this is any different. Flashing yellow here. See how it's representing it? I'm just seeing yellow. It didn't pause at all, so it just completely, and I got two flashes of red there at the end. Didn't pause at all. Single flashing yellow here. Nothing significant to talk about. I really haven't had a good interaction with those flashing yellows to know if it would yield to a car that was stopping or if it would just proceed and make the other guy yield. All right, turning right here. So we're going to be a right on red scenario. There's our full stop. And it's creeping. And it was wide open and it proceeded. So nice right on red there. Coming up next is a four-way stop sign. There's our blinker. Stop. No creeping wall or anything there. It's just proceeding. The visibility is fine here. Stop sign on the other side of the road we talked about last week. It's rendering it, and it's going really, really... Oh, and it stopped this time. Okay. It's not appropriate for it to stop there. And there's a speed limit error here. Marking this road is 15 miles an hour, which is not correct. It's 30 here. So I'm going to go ahead and manually roll this up like I did last week to 30. Flashing yellow. Yeah, the lane keeping is fine right here when it's painted this good, and when there's a little bit of a curb, giving it a nice defined drivable space. Hadn't had any issues here. So there was a speed limit sign we just passed that did actually have the 30 miles an hour on it. It was partially obscured with a palm front, and it still read it just fine. So that's good to see that it was able to take a peek at that sign, even though it was partially obscured. All right, that car jumped out but didn't cross the line. It gave a little bit of a hesitation on the braking there, which was completely normal while it was trying to see what it was going to do, and then proceeded. So that was a nice defensive pause there, I think. All right, we got a green light here, so it should go straight through this. That car's got his blinker on. Identified him as blue. Just fine. It took the right of way and ran with it. All right, needs to stay in this center lane. Light turned yellow, didn't even pause. And now we've got a follow me car controlling our speed, which is good. That was nice and smooth. Couple potholes here. Ooh, we got a cone today marking that pothole. And it definitely went around the cone. Which is good, and granted the car in front of me went around it too, so it had a lead car to follow. That's a new one. I know I've been talking about those potholes in that location, but that was the first time anyone had marked one. Little bit of indecision on that trajectory there. I don't know if you saw the flickering blue. It ended up in the right lane, but it flickered a couple times. Lots of cones to the right here, just marking some road work, I guess. It doesn't seem to be marking any sort of concern about them. And that should be our destination for part 1 of the Memorial Park Drive. So normally I do this drive in the morning, and there's a lot different traffic and a lot less pedestrians out walking around. So this is really good to get out and do it this time of night. Obviously, I think it's always good to change up the conditions. But when you compare apples to apples, it might not always feel like they're side-by-side comparisons, because the time of day is different, the traffic is different, and so many other things could be different between the way the car reacts. All right, gonna do my little U-turn here. And we'll re-engage when able and give part 2 a run. All right, this is my odd angle intersection. Last time it did throw up a nice creep window. It's a little bit blind to the left right now. There's my creep. That creep window is too far out. Okay, it needs to stop. It needs to stop. Okay, so, okay, the creep window. Look how that creep window is jumping around there. That is what I'm talking about when I'm saying that that is a network that's being predicting the location of that. So the way you got to see that network jumping around is basically the computer doing its probabilistic determination of where the creep limit is based on the geometry. Good visualization here of some pedestrians that jumped out in the crosswalk. It, of course, had the red light, but it keeps marking those strollers as dogs occasionally, which I guess is a logical asset to use for a stroller. All right, that car has the arrow. We're still waiting on the green. Let's see what kind of acceleration we get off of this light. There's the green. Nice, that was good. I would say that was a just right acceleration off that light. Sometimes on this road, we've talked a few times about the potholes, but the manhole covers also. I think that the day that we actually get the car going around potholes, it's gonna probably go around a few manhole covers, because as you look, down the road, a manhole cover has the same sort of lighting as a pothole until you get right up on it. Boy, will that be nice the day that potholes are rendered. Or stored locally on the Tesla to remember that they're there. All right, we should be going straight here. The light turned yellow, and that's the appropriate decision that time to go ahead and stop. And let's see where it stops here. Perfect location there, no issues. And there's the green, the short light. Same acceleration. I think it just threw the blinker up there. That was the first kind of erroneous blinker I've noticed. All right, should be going straight here. On this curve, with that car parked there, in the past, it has crossed over the yellow line. Let's see what it does today. It didn't cross over the yellow, it just hugged it really, really tight. That was perfect. There was an oncoming car, it couldn't jump over the lane. There was a parked car where it needed to hug the lane. It went around that just right. That was a really good path. All right, we're coming back up on our flashers. We do have a car here that is waiting. We've got a mail truck up here flashing too. It should not even pause at that because there's plenty of room to go around it, but it is a parked car mail truck with its hazards right at the yellow light. All right, completely just went around it, no problem. So it didn't take any sort of caution around those flashers. Not that it should have, but I know we've got some outstanding questions around school buses and things like that. I have not been able to test a good school bus scenario where it puts out its own stop sign on the side where kids might be crossing. All right, we've got a pedestrian with 3 dogs here, plenty of room, and a cone and a pothole here. It's being much, much more cautious with that pedestrian today than it normally is when I do that turn. Completely safe. Just of all the times I've done that turn, that pedestrian made it act a little bit differently. All right, we've got a blinker on here. This is, the seatbelt's locked. I think I just felt the seatbelt lock for the first time. It's got a creep here. I do have the creep network showing. and we got a car coming from the left. It definitely could have made it in front of that car, but it chose to wait, which is just fine at a stop sign. All right, and there's the commit. Not bad. I guess I would say it felt like a little bit of a lazy commit. Okay, so now it's being a little bit of a lane hog here. I'm going straight, and there is room for 2 cars here. If there was a car that wanted to be on the right side to turn right, locally, that would kind of be frowned upon. I should have been hugging that yellow line a little bit more. Lots of Teslas driving by these days. All right, coming up on a flasher. Didn't feel it brake at all. Same thing. Do have a little traffic interaction there this time. So it even with a car there, the yellow flasher, it behaved the exact same. That's good. Just the rendering of red occasionally on that flasher is still a bit curious to me. Rendering that sign as a small truck. So this is a school zone sign that has flashers to control the speed. Door open there, that was a nice rendering there. I have not seen it on any of these time-based speed signs yet, so that's definitely something we're gonna keep an eye out in the future. Okay, so here's our unmapped rotary from the other direction. I just got the map up so you can see it. I got a yield sign, happens to be crooked. It's wide open now. It just rolled this one. Nice. So that one, it did just fine. No complaints on that one. And this turn to the right has completely changed geometry. See how it's looking for the turn here, but it can't see it? It's got to keep going. The turn has moved, and now look at it going. So, very jittery there, very jittery with a little bit of oncoming traffic it needs to yield to. It's doing fine. It's just very cautious here, and now it's mapping its path, and it's got its bearings and going around. So, that was perfectly fine. Of course, I was acting like I wasn't sure what it was going to do, because obviously it started that turn with an unmapped intersection in the wrong location, and then it ran into a little bit of traffic, but it was cautious. It did it just fine. A little bit of a barricade here. Didn't show it as any sort of orange cone. And as we come up here to the end of the road, we have an unprotected left crossing Roosevelt, which is the only one on this turn. And I don't know the traffic we're going to have to deal with here, so it'll be interesting to see what it does. Okay, it's mapping the median, which is great, which means I know that it sees the median, and there's my creep network, which, okay, it needs to wait. Okay, that's good. Okay, so the cars are starting to come. There's a small gap here, and it's wide open left and right, and it's going to roll it. Okay, so whoa, oh, lane confusion. Darn it. Where is it going? Wow. Holy smokes. I let it do that just because there was nobody behind me and I wanted to understand what it was doing. But after that unprotected left, we did a weird set of snake wakes across the traffic. We're going to have to look at that in post and see why it was confused there. It was pretty straightforward. All right, on this Memorial Park Drive, I try to always look at that sign. Gas is $3.59 here in Jacksonville. That was disappointing. It locked down the trajectory of that unprotected left just fine with low traffic. It waited on one car, but then once it was complete, it completely lost its bearings. And I've done that turn dozens of times. You can look back on every Memorial Park Drive I do that turn, and it's never done that before. Okay, well, we are kind of heading back towards the end of this drive. We have one more unprotected left at a light that is always fun to see how it handles. But if I were to summarize how I feel right now, obviously this was not as good as of a Memorial Park drive as it was on .0, but it's a different time of day and different lighting and a different traffic situation. Some interactions that did not get tested before. So that pedestrian entering the crosswalk and the car stopping after it crossed the crosswalk was not the appropriate behavior. It almost acted delayed, like there was a latency in there, and then it completed the stop maneuver, but it was just too late. That's the way it felt driving it. It felt like it was that first roundabout on the first lap. It felt like it did not honor that yield sign, and it was just proceeding even though there was traffic in the traffic circle. It should have stopped for that. The other behaviors, I think, were pretty much all what I would say standard. I think if I'm going to say, was there a difference on this build, I'm going to probably put it in the category of the commit acceleration and the jerk that's used to kind of boost up after it starts accelerating felt a little bit better. Not so aggressive. Okay, here's our unprotected left. It's got a nice gap here. It should pre-roll that and just go for it. Oh, why did it do that? I don't know why it did that. It changed its trajectory. It was fine because there was a big enough gap, but oh boy, that was interesting. It's almost like it needed to go wide for this turn, and it needed to go wide in front of that car, and because of that, it kind of acted like it was going to run into that car. It didn't, but it was being very, very jerky, whereas I would have just been straight and moving in. Yeah. But now, hey, I hope everybody gets this build soon. Listen, it's great to have this new version running around with the new creep networks and the median prediction and just the iteration. And now that we have the seatbelt tensioners and the other features with the .20 fork, the .20 branch, I think it's great. So anyway, hope you guys enjoy this. Leave comments below. Let me know what you think. Have a great day.